Come on in, y'all. Come on in, y'all. It's the Sirwalterj show starting up again. It is Sunday school lesson time, and I want y'all to just be prepared. Genesis chapter 1. We're at it again. Genesis chapter 1, y'all. Starting at the 14th verse. Come on in if you're on Facebook Live. Y'all know I usually don't waste any time, but on Thursdays I kind of have to wait till this commercial, my opening theme song, and that's why we don't go right into the lesson. But everything else, y'all know when y'all go on YouTube, I go right into the lessons. We don't play around. All right, give me a few seconds here. All right, yeah, there it is. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello, everybody. Sirwalterj, the Sirwalterj show. I'm he. It is Thursday, Theology Thursday. It's the day we sit around the mic and talk about the Bible, the B-I-B-L-E. Man, that's the book for me. I'm just so excited to be here and be in the land of the living as well as being in the land of the dying. Folk are dying, just dying. Oh, the great Burt Reynolds, we lost him today at the age of 82. Probably one of the greatest, one of the greatest actors of the 1970s and part of the 80s. Had a long career in, in movies and television. So, yeah, let's pray for that family. It has been a very trying week for some of you, and especially in politics and social issues, and gosh, and the beat goes on, as they would say. Today we want to talk about creation, part 2. Last week we were on Genesis chapter 1 through probably the 13th verse. And in that we talked about in Genesis, we told you that Genesis is the birth certificate for the earth. And God said a few things here, and that what he said kind of gave us clues. The Bible interprets itself. It is, as we know, the Old Testament is the New Testament concealed. There are a lot of things in the Old Testament that may not come to life because it is written to a particular audience, featuring a particular kind of people, a particular culture and language and what have you. It's written mostly in Hebrew, and it's agricultural, and it just sometimes in our Western understanding we just can't get a lot of it. And then those of you who have a King James Version, you reading it in Old English 1611 language, and it kind of throws some of you off. So the Old Testament it is the scriptures. It's what's concealed, that is. But the New Testament brings things to life. It is what's revealed, and it describes and interprets and brings to life what the Old Testament was probably trying to say to you. And so this right here, the Genesis story of creation, is a wonderful story. It's often debated by those who are believers and non-believers, those who are atheists and those who are Christians, even those who are all Christians and apologetics. Sometimes they tend to fight over really what did this mean. And so we kind of went over it last week on God creating this light. We focused on what the light was, and we said that we believe that the light was God himself. Wherever God is, there is light. There is no darkness in him, even though he created darkness and light. But yet, whenever he shows up, there's light. He's fire. He is the same consuming fire that we see in hell's fire. All right, we begin to bring that out last week, and it also talks about the waters and the space, the land, and what the Bible calls the firmaments. Okay, and I think we've also focused on, what else did we focus on? He said, let there bring forth grass and herb yielding seeds, all right? And verse 12, brought forth grass, and then he talked about the evening and the morning was the third day, all right? So a few things happen in the creation story. Today we're going to talk about verse 14 and describe what these lights were. God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years, This is the creation of a great or less light, which is, of course, the sun, the stars, and the moon, and what have you. And let them be the lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And God made two great lights, and the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. And God said, let them, he set them in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth. So I want to read this in the NLT for those of you who kind of need that little self-help this interpretation, so that you can see some of the plain English just to make things a little more plain. I'll go to 14, I'll go to 15 maybe. And the evening passed and morning came, marking the fourth day. That's what's going on here, the creation of the fourth day. Then God said, let the waters swarm, the fish and the other life. Let the skies be filled with birds of every kind. And so God created great sea creatures and every living thing that scurries and swarms in the water, and every sort of bird, each producing offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. And then God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and let the fish fill the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth. And evening passed and morning came, marking the fifth day. All right. Now this is important to see here. There's some things that sometimes we don't focus on. We move past some things, and I think we should focus on some things because it'll make sense of maybe the Adam and Eve story, the Garden of Eden story, and even also in the book of Job, where we see these particular animals and creatures. These animals and these birds and these creeping things that God created, they may or may not have had venom in them and poison in them, like some frogs are poisonous and some snakes are poisonous and what have you. They may or may not have had them because there were no predators at the time, which means there were no prey, because in the garden there were no killing. It was plantation, pretty much plantation, plant life, and they ate herb. God noticed he never used the word meat when he was talking to Adam and Eve. He just said, be fruitful, and multiply, and eat the herb of the ground. And so there would not have been a need for a prey to have something in its body to ward something off. There will not be a predator to have certain things in him or her to chase or devour certain things, all right? And that's difficult to understand in our understanding of the life of animals and plant life that we see today in creation. It's difficult for us to see that, and that's just understandable. And you just got to take that up with your God, all right? But this greater and less than light is, I think, as God was creating the heavens and the earth, when we look at the solar system, I think it is. I can't say one is a greater creation than the other, but I will say that it is baffling to man. God continues to baffle man on his creations. Every time we turn around, man is discovering something new. And I believe that archaeologists and scientists and all of these people, I believe they think that they have discovered most of what's on the earth, until somebody finds something that nobody found. There's some kind of animals, some kind of insect, some kind of bones or something. The earth continues to baffle man. And it's baffling man because God, people think that they got God all down pat, and well, he continues to show his mysteries. He said he find glory in concealing things, and it's up to us and those who are kings to search these things out. All right? And so as we end on the 25th verse, next week we see where God creates man. All right? So let's see if we can tag team this. Elder Rodney Jones just walked in. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yes. Praying for him.
Pray for him. because I want to start talking about some facts about the moon and the earth, which is, gosh, it is just an amazing array of things that God did in the creation of it and why he did it. And even today, scientists are discovering a little bit more than what they thought they knew about the moon and the stars and the earth and the sun. Mm-hmm. You know, we pretty much know that the 93 million mile thing. All right, we know that, and we could kind of gear our minds on what we learned in grammar school and high school. But there's so much more to what these lesser and greater than lights have accomplished. Elder Jones, how you doing?
I'm doing all right for a young man.
Let's go at it, man.
Okay, talk to me.
Where are we here? I read all of the verses here. Man, you can start us at the beginning here at the greater and lesser than light. Verse 14. Start us off here. Verse 14.
One thing I would like to say, if you notice what the writer did not call this greater light.
Sure.
He didn't call it the sun and the moon.
He did not.
And I believe Moses purposely did not call it that, because there were people such as the Jerichoites who worshiped the moon.
That's good.
There are sun gods and moon gods that they worship. And from what I read, according to history and scholars, which I'm trying to be both, it stated that had Moses written those names, he would have been writing the names of their gods.
That's good. Yeah.
So rather than write their names, he says greater lights. And I think we should kind of back up on last week, because there was some few that still don't support, believe, or understand this sun being created today as opposed to the first day.
Sure.
And so the question is, and the question that I ask is, what was lighting the world until God said, let the sun appear, or let this greater light? And notice what the purpose. Now he lists the purpose of both of these lights, which I think is very important. So if we go back a little bit to last week, we see, and if you can look at creation, you can see that its climaxing is going towards somewhere. It's going to an end, and it's going up until the crown of God's creation, which ultimately will be man.
Yes.
So we see where he separates this ball. He places a firmament in the midst of the waters, right? Then he creates a firmament, or a span, or an expansion, and he calls the upper, he calls it firmament, he calls it heaven. Then his focus is down here on earth. He separates the water from this dry land. He calls this dry land earth. Now, and I said this before, it's funny how people don't believe in God. Didn't I say that last week?
Yes.
But they call the earth what the God that they don't believe in, earth.
They do.
So then part 2 I want to pull out is his focus in today's lesson. His focus is now in the sea. Because there are a lot of people, I don't know if evolution even says that the sea produced these sea animals. But here you will see what God created them and then told them to multiply and replenish not only the waters, but the earth. Yeah. And also we'll see in today's lesson that the birds came from the same place that the fish did.
Yes.
They were all created in the water. Now, there's some words, and I left my piece of paper, there's some words I want to go over I thought was very interesting. So I'll go back to verse 14. He says, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. Now, before this firmament, before this great light, what divided the day from the night? That's a question that I'm asking you.
Before this firmament.
Before this sun.
This sun in 14.
In verse 14.
Right.
Because remember, God said, let there be light.
He did.
And there was light.
Yes.
The next thing he did was he separated the light from the darkness.
He did.
Then the Bible speaks about the evening and the day, well, the first day, the second day, and the third day.
Yes.
So it's been going day and night before
the greater and the lesser.
Before the greater and the lesser.
Yes.
So everything moves by the power of God. And then, so here, he says, he places this in the firmament to divide or to separate the day from the night. Then he says, and let them be for, he lists three things. I know some probably call days and years as 3 and 4.
Yes.
But he said that these lights, not just the sun, but the moon as well, are going to be for signs, for seasons, for days and years. In other words, because of the rising and the going down of those great lights, man would be able to calculate time.
Right.
I believe the earth or something makes its complete, whatever, 365 days. Which one does what?
What? The earth.
The earth rotates around the sun. And it takes, yeah, that makes sense because the sun is in the heavens. Okay, so the only way we're going to know that it's another year and another year and another year is by how many times we see the sun and don't see the sun.
That's right.
So that's one of the purposes, but that would be for the year and the day. But when it says for signs, if I may talk about the signs for a few minutes, I believe two things about the signs. I believe because the same word for signs here is the word for token here. It's the same word for token when God set the bow in the sky. That it would be a token or a sign. So if we use the word sign two ways, number one, you remember where I want to go. He used in Exodus 10. Exodus 10 and 21, he used this sign to plague Egypt in darkness.
Yes.
Right? What did he do? He removed it. So there was complete darkness. That was a sign that was God. Joshua, who declared to the sun to be still and the moon to stand still. Notice he was talking to the sun and the moon. When he did that, that was a sign to Israel and to the people that God did this.
Right.
So each time we see a movement or a lack thereof of the sun and the moon, we see that that's a sign to the people concerning God. You also see that at the Magi's. Remember, they said we saw his star in the east.
The Magi.
Yeah, the Magi. I'm from the hood. You from the other side.
The neighbor.
You from the neighbor. I'm from the hood. And then the darkness. Remember the crucifixion of Jesus. When the sun left, that also was a sign. But then, if you look at it, it's a token as well. Now, I wrote something, when the sun rises, it's a reminder to us of the creativity of God. Yeah. When the sun rises, it reminds us of the power of God. It reminds us of the resource of God. It reminds us that God is whatever he is. Every time that sun rises, it reminds us that God is dominant. God is more powerful, most powerful. And that there are people who worship the sun.
True.
But every time that sun, we don't see it and do see it, somebody set that sun there in the firmament. Whoever set it there in the firmament is greater than the sun.
That's true.
So whoever is greater than the sun got to be the real and true and living God.
Absolutely.
So why are people worshiping a small G-O-D when it was a big G-O-D that put that small G-O-D there?
Absolutely.
So every time we see the sun, we remember that it gives us vitamin D.
Yes.
It gives us radiation, not radiation, radiance.
And radiation.
And radiation. And I don't know if you went over this, but it is also said that if you take, and we talked about this before, if you take the sun and move it just a little bit closer to the earth will burn up. If you move it back just a little bit, we will freeze. So it had to be somebody who was wise enough and used enough wisdom to put the sun the exact spot where it needs to be so that the earth does not get affected either way.
That's good.
That somebody is who we call God.
That somebody is who we call God. Man, you know, you're almost a bigger nerd than I am.
Yeah, just a little bit.
We're from the same, cut from the same cloth.
Cloth, right, right.
Here's the thing about the sun and the moon.
Man of the cloth.
Man of the cloth. He's man of the cloth. God put a big bolt of energy, fire,
inside of it.
Okay, inside of it.
I'm aware. It is. That's what it is.
It serves a couple purposes.
Yep.
One purpose, of course, is to serve light
upon the earth.
For the earth.
And not for the heaven.
And not for the heaven. Because there are other stuff going on in the heavens.
So what's lighting up the heaven?
And which heaven you talking about?
All three of them.
All right, three heavens.
Right.
All right, because that sun is not the only sun.
It's not the only sun.
Okay, because that's in our universe.
Right.
All right. All right. So that sun is for us. All right, and then it gives us heat.
Heat.
Understand that? Okay, and it gives life.
Life.
That proto to the plant life.
Correct.
Okay, what have you? All right. That photosynthesis, I think it's called. All right, and now, but what it also do is it fuels this lesser light.
Yes, sir.
Which is called the moon.
The moon.
The moon is just a mirror. Okay.
It's just an image. It's just a reflection.
It's a reflection.
So we the moon and God is the sun.
We the moon. Come on.
Come on.
So here it is. So he put this just bold, big ball of nothing, and this big ball of all this energy, and he put them, in the skies where we can see them. But it seems like this big bolt of light disappears. It never disappears.
Right.
It's always there.
It's always there.
And it's shining so much light on this ball of nothing. God is a conservative.
Yes.
Okay. He's a conservative.
He conserves his energy.
It's too much energy, all right? So pull it from here.
Right.
You're an electrician.
Yeah.
You know how it works. Okay? All right, because in some things in the house, I don't know if that's you.
Yeah, it's me.
All right. There's some things in the house that borrow energy from it's like a port, not a portal. What's that thing that causes it conduct? It's called a conductor. There it is. Conductor. All right. So, but then L. Jones.
Yes, sir.
This moon, which is a lesser light, does something to our water source on the earth. There is this wonderful thing called the tide, which affect us and the animal life in the water. It's a brilliant thing that God has done, and scientists are still trying to figure out. Wait, we were kind of wrong because here's what it is. What God did, He put the earth here, and he tilted the earth, is on an axis, and so it's turning.
Correct.
It rotates because this is the way God will let us see the dark and the light. He has to turn it. But he has to shine a light on it. Okay, and depending on where you live geographically,
that's when you see the light.
That's where you'll see. So when I'm seeing darkness, my brother over there is
seeing light.
It's amazing. Okay,
yeah, that's how he got it.
That's how he got it, right? So this moon is there at nighttime, but it has a gravitational pull. The earth also have a gravitational pull.
Yes, it does.
Right? And they both are pulling on each other. They're attracted to each other.
And the moon affects women when they're pregnant.
Yeah, yes, sir. Come on. Yes, it does. It affects moods as well.
Moods.
Whether it's a full moon, a half moon.
It's going to be a full moon tonight.
It affects our mentality.
Yes, it does.
And we don't think about all this stuff.
Yes.
Right? And so what scientists thought was because the moon is in proximity to the sun so close, it pulls the rivers, which cause the tides. And that's actually not what really happens. What I come to discover is that the moon gravitational pull, the moon is moving. I thought just the earth moved, but as I did my in-depth study some time ago, the moon is actually moving.
Yes.
And as it's moving, the earth is trying to catch it because they both are gravitationally attracted to each other. So while the moon is moving, the earth is moving to catch it. And the waters that are in the earth
is being
affected by it.
Right.
Now watch this. Every water on earth, including you, because you're mostly water.
Right. Right.
Your coffee.
I'm just ugly water.
You see what I'm saying? Everything that's liquid is being affected by this earth, and it's being pulled. And there are tidal waves going on in it, and you don't see it because it's so minute.
Right.
But we only see it, though, in big lakes.
Right.
Because of the mass of the lakes.
But then the small stuff, you don't
see it.
Yeah.
So what it is this, L. Jones. Oh, I better plug this in because I'm about to lose. Like my thing says, low battery. My bad. I didn't plug it in.
Yeah, you need that solar power.
I need that solar power. Sorry, y'all. I didn't plug it in. Okay. What I found out is they call it tidal waves. Rip tides.
Rip tides.
Okay. They call them small waves, tidal waves, and spring tides, and all this stuff. But what's happening is the Earth is being squeezed. It ain't being pulled like gum, or not gum, but what's that, licorice stick?
Yeah, licorice stick.
Licorice stick. They thought it was being pulled, but it's actually being squeezed. It's a pimple. And I have 2 pimples here on my face, and I guess God let these pimples grow so I can make this definition here. So I'm gonna put a lesser and greater pimple. There was a pimple over here, there, Jones, that I was trying to squeeze to get out, and I couldn't get it out. Why? Because it was too small.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't. On the one on my left side was big enough for me to squeeze the stuff out of it. And if y'all eating, I'm sorry, I just got to go this way. The reason why I was able to get this pus out of there because it had a great mass, great enough mass for me to squeeze it. And all right, that's what's happening with the Earth. The lakes like Lake Michigan, its mass is so great that the moon is squeezing it like a pimple, which makes the tide come in and go out. And who directed all this traffic?
Yes.
God did.
Yep.
God did. It did it for a reason, but He did not allow us to be moved because we're water.
Right.
Your coffee, your bath water, your toilet water,
which is the same thing.
Which is pretty much.
Yes, all the same. Yeah.
All of it is the same thing.
I bathe in my coffee.
You bathe? Yes, you do. Right? So when people say there is no God,
they got to be.
They are.
You have to fight.
Yes.
You have to overfight.
Yes, you do.
To believe or think that there is no God.
You have to fight, yeah.
Because the breath of God is the Spirit of God, which is in man, which calls man to be alive.
Yes.
That same breath, according to Romans, the 1st chapter, something in you is telling you there has to be a God.
Something is telling you, yeah.
So you have to literally fight and overfight on purpose and be brainwashed and be trained and be taught and all of that not to believe.
Yeah, and that's why he said, you know what, you fighting that much against me, I'm gonna turn you up,
and then I'm gonna turn you over. Then I'm gonna turn you out.
Yeah, man, you are a reprobate because you want to be that way.
Yeah, that's right. That's a purpose thing. You have to really fight. Yeah. To not want to know to believe. Yes. Exactly.
That's why He called you a fool.
That's right. And that's why He said, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. But that's a willful lack of knowledge. Yes, they're willfully. He said, because you rejected me, I'm rejecting you. Yeah. So it's like people try to come to you and try to give you the true facts, and you hold your hand. I don't want to hear. You willfully don't want to hear the truth.
You don't want to hear it.
Because once you hear the truth, now you got to abide by it.
There it is. You come into the knowledge of it.
Yes, sir. I'm trying.
You become up under this law of the truth.
That's it. Now you have to use that information accordingly.
Yes, sir. That's good stuff. That's good stuff.
So He says, let the lights, let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. So here He says the purpose for the lights in the heavens is to give light. Now, when you look at something, the word lights here is lumina. And He says the purpose of the lumina is to shine. Now, He never said that of day one of the light, because there are 2 different definitions for let there be light in chapter 1, verse 2, verse 3, and it is in this lesson. So it can't be the same light. And then look at something that blew my mind, verse 16, that we constantly go over, but never really stop and pay attention to it. We always talk about God said, right? God spoke, God created, God said that was good, and God smiled, and he called the evening and the morning the next day. Here it said God made.
Yeah.
In this verse, and there's 3 more verses, God made the firmament, God made the world, or he created. We'll get to that in a minute. So here, and the word made is a verb. It means to make or to accomplish, to complete something, or to make something with a distinct purpose. So God has a distinct purpose. Matter of fact, every insect that's on the face of the earth has a purpose.
There's the purpose.
Even if it's to punish man, it's still there for a purpose.
That's right.
Because God is not creating anything else, right?
Right.
So he knew man would fall. So he used those frogs. He used those lice. He used the cattle and all of that in the days of the Egyptians to smite them. He used the locusts. So sometimes God, well, I should say all the time, he already had a plan. And we wonder, what is this thing here for? Well, it's here to keep you in line.
Yes.
Because as long as you're out of line, this thing will be here.
Yes.
All right? Because we didn't have all of these problems when the first man was on earth.
No, sir.
But ever since the fall of man, we've been having all of these kind of problems. We get stung by bees and the whole 9 yards. Now, one thing I want to talk about, the moon. Now, you do remember, we talked about this a while back, that the moon, because this is that greater light, this is the lesser light. Now, one was to rule or to govern the day, right? Mm-hmm. Now, now, what was this day that it was to govern?
Which one are you talking about?
The greater light.
Which day?
What is this thing called day?
Oh.
That he's supposed to govern.
Oh.
Remember, he says, and God called the light day.
Yes.
The sun is to rule this day, or that of the light that was created in day one.
You getting deep?
Did I get deep?
Yeah, you did.
I'm gonna order me a shrimp fried rice.
You getting deep?
Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So he created this great light to rule the other light that he had already created, because the other light, he called it day. So he put the sun here so that it can rule or govern the day
that he created after you saw the initial light. That light we saw in verse 2,
maybe verse 3. Yes. 3. And so when he said, let there be light, and I believe that he was just calling forth a reflection of him.
Yes.
So he places this light there, but then the Bible says he called that light day.
Yes.
Here, he puts the sun to rule
over that particular day.
So it can't be the same thing.
No, it wasn't. No, it's not. And that's, see, right there, that's good, young man.
Yes, sir. Yes.
See, that's what baffled a lot of people. That's what baffled some scholars as well.
Yes.
And it baffled a lot of people on YouTube. I saw they said, no, I don't know. I'm reading some of the comments. I'm like, okay, well, you'll find out eventually, by and by.
Right.
Okay.
Or goodbye. Either or.
Goodbye. All right. But if you ever went into a forest at nighttime, there is some light. And I'm not talking about the stars and the moon, but God has created some kind of light even in the forest and in the darkest, deepest parts of the sea. There are animals that give out light.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, y'all call them lightning bugs.
Lightning bugs. Yeah.
There's certain insects other than fireflies and certain mammals that's in the ocean, whether it's stingrays or whatever, that these microscopic insects that give out particular light. So God is going to create, he's going to make sure that light is seen somewhere.
Yes.
And doesn't have to come from the star or the sun or the moon.
Because he spoke light.
Because he spoke
before
light.
all of those things existed.
Yep. And there we can make a spark in our homes with something, with two stones.
Don't try that at home.
Don't try it at home.
That's how fires start. He's teaching you how to be an arsonist.
Come on, man. Inertia. All right, we can do that and strike fire.
Right.
With 2 stones.
And preachers do that too.
Yeah, strike fire and sit
Strike fire and sit down. Aim high.
Absolutely. See what I'm saying? So God, it could have, well, he was, I believe, that light in verse 3. And he could have created little pieces of light to hold the earth until that greater light came, which is the sun.
Correct.
Yes.
Now, check this out. If you go to 104th Psalm.
In Michigan?
104th Psalm.
Oh, okay.
Now, let me go back to that moon again, because remember, scientists are always trying to prove that there is no God.
Right.
And I talked about the fact that Jericho was the city of the moon. They worshiped the moon.
They did.
All right. So remember, God told Joshua to tell the children of Israel to march around the city one time for 6 days. When you march around one time, that's 360 degrees.
Yeah.
When you march around one time a day at 6 times, that gives you the number of 2180 or 2160. 2160 is the exact same number of the circumference of the moon.
Yes, sir.
So what happens is when man tries to prove that there is no God, and then when he calculates the circumference of the moon, and then he go and read the Bible story, how Israel marched around the city of the moon, he finds God.
Yeah, he does.
And so he always finds where God has already calculated some stuff to the minute, to the very smallest of the minutiest. But look at 104th Psalm, verse 19 says, he appointed the moon for seasons. Yeah. The sun knoweth his going down. He knows when to go down.
Rosh Kodesh is the word.
Yes. For...
Yeah, he appointed the moon for the seasons. The sun knows his going to sun. The sun. Yes.
Yes. So verse 20 says, thou makest darkness, and it is night, wherein all the beasts of the forest do creep forth. When they creeping forth?
Yes.
At night.
Yeah.
The young lions roar after their prey and seek their meat from who? From God. The sun arises. Now all this took place at night. Now, verse 22 says, the sun arises, they gather themselves together and lay them down in their dens. They back at the dens because something getting ready to happen. In verse 23, man goeth forth unto his work and to his labor until the evening. O Lord, how manifold are thy works. In wisdom hast thou made them all. The earth is full of thy riches. So is the great and wide sea, wherein are all things, creeping innumerable. You can't even number them, both small and great beasts. There go the ships. There is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play. That's the toy of God. That's his little puppet.
Yeah.
These all wait upon thee, that thou mayest give them their meat in due season. I thought that was very interesting, how he would write that all of that creeping things come out at night to do their thing while man is asleep. Yes. Then when man who rules the earth gets up, even Leo is born back into his den.
Yes.
But then man is not working at night.
Yep. There it is. At least that was his design.
That was his design.
Is to not work at night.
And overtime was of the devil.
Yeah, there it is. I mean, because the scripture is clear, night comes when no man can work.
No man can work, exactly.
So you're supposed to, God designed the body to go to sleep
to sleep at night.
Because there is no vitamin D.
Right.
The sun is not out.
Exactly. So if you want vitamin D, you got to get out there when it's out there.
Come on now.
And it's only out there in the day.
In the daytime.
And we are the children of the day and not of the night.
Children of the night.
We should be at home in the bed, sleep.
And I believe that a lot of this 24-hour stuff that came on the earth eventually and
it's messed us up.
And it messed us up.
Yes, it makes
cable,
things available, but it still messes us up.
I believe it messed us up. I really believe in health and intellect and social, the way we interact with each other. I believe all that happened, you know, with this. I'm looking at God's creation as it pertains to animals. Even in the Job story, I believe that these dinosaurs were created here. I don't believe they were created pre.
So you don't believe in the pre-Adamic?
I do not believe in the pre-Adamic, antediluvian, and all these words that y'all come up with.
You don't believe in the antediluvian stage?
I'm talking about as far as these creatures here is concerned.
Oh, okay.
I believe that on this day, God created all animals.
One of the listeners on my YouTube channel says that someone walked out of her Sunday school class because apparently he did not accept the non-dinosaur act.
He didn't accept it.
He did not accept that the dinosaur, apparently she couldn't support that he believed that the dinosaurs existed, I guess, before this particular creation or whatever the case may be. And so he got up and stomped out of the church.
He didn't believe in the dinosaurs?
I think he believes in it, but I think he believes in the pre-Adamic.
I see. Gotcha.
He says, I think she says that he believes that the dinosaurs are like 6 billion years older than the sun, than the moon,
You see how that could bring some problems, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why the Bible said in the beginning, God created, and he gave us the things that we should know.
Exactly, because he didn't say, and I created all these things, but there was no but there. And I get the whole, and I think people insert the dinosaurs in the gap.
Right.
There. That's where they insert it, and I don't believe in the gap year. I can see why many believe in it.
Yeah, me too.
Because you could prove anything in Scripture. You can make Scripture
say whatever you want. Exactly.
You really can, because you go with the 1,000 year, with the Lord is a day. We can go with that. And that's why some of the people in the 1,000 year gap use that New Testament Scripture to put it in there. And I get it, but I believe in my heart of hearts that these dinosaurs were created right now when we're talking. And I believe that these were the dinosaurs in Job 40. He talked about the behemoth, which scholars fight over who it is, because some think that this behemoth was a hippopotamus. A
hip artist.
And because of the description, but when you continue to describe its tail, the hippopotamus tail is about this big.
Yeah.
This tail of the behemoth is like a cedar tree. I mean, it's huge.
It's big, yeah.
Okay, and then the Leviathan you brought up. All right, and I believe then there's a fire-breathing dragon that pops up in chapter 41.
Correct.
All right, so all these animals, I believe, is being created as we're speaking in this. This lesson today.
They call them the sea creatures.
The sea creatures. Absolutely. No one can prove that it is. No one can prove that it isn't.
Correct.
We will be fighting until Christ says, "Hey, guess what? Elder Jones, you were wrong."
Right. Elder Walter Jones.
Yeah, right. Be specific. All right. What you got?
So, verse 20, he says, "And God said, let the waters bring forth." Now, this right here, he talks about bring forth abundantly. Another word for that would be swarming. Let them bring forth the swarming animals, or let them swarm full of these particular moving creatures. Now, we're getting into another phase of creation. We're getting into a phase where things that constantly move.
Yeah.
At first, everything was sitting still.
Right.
Now we're getting into the animals and into the food category. And now, today, we're going to shift from the sea to the dry land. And then next week, we're going to conclude on the dry land, which is the climax of it all. So he says, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creatures that have life. Notice they have life.
Yes, sir.
And the fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. Notice the specifics that God said. He says, now I want the fowl to come out the water, but I don't want them to return to the water. I want you to come out the water, but I want you to fly in the air. But when you get to flying, I want you to land on the earth. And the rest of the things that are in the sea, I want you to stay in the sea. All you need is going to be in the sea. Yes. And everything the bird needs, though he came out the sea, is going to be either in the air. Some of it he's going to get from the sea. Shame on him, eating your own family. And then he going to get the rest on the dry land, because there's some birds that fly over the sea and scoop down and get something, and he keep on going. Yes. Right. Well, he's familiar with that territory. He was born from it. That's the hood in his life. He just was told not to return to it. Yes. All right, you hear what I'm saying? So then, here is a great situation in verse 21. And God created great whales, and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly. Notice it says, after their kind, which means birds ain't got no business habitating with the fish. So on and so forth. Good catch. Yeah, and that's what they do. They catch, and you know, although man is trying to do some stuff. Yes, they are. Hybrid stuff, and I believe man needs to just leave that to God and leave it alone. Yeah. So that word whales, great whales, would include crocodiles and all of these. And I think you read it. It talked about. Somewhere it called them not just the crocodiles, but you said it, the sea monster, and those other type of sea creatures.
Sure.
These were the big, humongous ones as well as the small ones. But whatever it is, it was created by God.
Yes.
Even if there's a Moby Dick out there, God created him for whatever his purpose is. We talked about the Leviathan. We call it the toy of God. And the sea monster. And I don't know if the Loch Ness, what's he called? The Loch Monster? The
Loch Ness Monster?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
And then there's that creature from the Black.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That Negro creature.
Yeah, that one. I don't know where he comes from. But every creature, every living creature that moveth, now we get into life. Every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after this kind, and God saw that it was good. And I believe that God is creating the food for man as well. Because at first, man was going to be vegetarians, right?
Yes, sir.
But God knew that man would fall and ultimately end up eating fish and all of that.
Good catch. And I alluded to that. Notice I said in the beginning of this, I think you was walking in, I said, these animals may or may not had things that caused them to be predators.
Right, that's right. I heard you say that.
Now the reason why I said it because
the poison and all that.
Yes, because they could have had that poison because God knew that man was going to fall. And so notice for that whole, gosh, what is it, about a little over 1,000 years from time God created Adam until Noah. Okay, Noah, it took him about 100 years. Okay, to create that boat, to build the boat. But once in chapter 9, you see where God didn't give them a new diet.
Right.
And that new diet is not just herbs. You can eat this meat now. These animals are now going to be afraid of you.
Correct.
He didn't say that when he created Adam and Eve.
Yeah, he didn't have to.
He said you're going to have dominion over them,
right,
and all these things. But now there's going to be a fear here, and you eat them. All right, which means did God reform all these animals to cause them to be predators? Did he make the blowfish blow? Because the only reason why the blowfish blow up is his protection,
right?
Against being eaten,
right?
So did he? Was he a puffy fish prior? You see what I'm saying? And those are all will be answered when I get to heaven.
Right, right. And I'll let you know.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. Okay. What you got?
That word for great whales is great sea creatures.
Yes.
That's what it's called. Great
Absolutely.
Sea creatures. And then what blesses me is when you get to verse 22, God is now talking to the animals.
Yes.
Because he has a right to talk to his creation.
Yeah, he's Mr. What's the guy who talked to the animals?
Yeah.
Mr. I'm about to say Peabody, not Peabody.
Right. Doctor.
Is it Doctor or Mr.? It's one of them.
Yeah, it's one of them guys.
Yeah, y'all answer it on the
Yeah. Brony on there, she would have had it by now.
Doolittle.
Yeah, Dr. Doolittle.
Yeah,
he talked to the animals.
Yes, sir.
And they tell me that, let me keep on moving. And God blessed them. Now, the next time you hear this, God blessed them, I think you'll see it with either Noah, and I'm not sure if it said, and God blessed them speaking to Adam and Eve.
Okay.
But it did say that he told them to replenish. But I'm not sure. I probably should have referenced that at first, but too late. It's out there.
Exactly.
He says a couple of things. Be fruitful, multiply, and fill. Now, next week, if it's in the lesson, we were told be fruitful, multiply, and replenish. But we're probably going to find out that replenish and fill means the same thing.
Oh, boy.
Because we always look at the R-E, which means to do it over again.
Yes.
But that's not always the case in the Hebrew or in the Greek.
So true.
So he says, be fruitful, multiply, and fill the waters in the sea, right? But then he tells the fowl, let the fowl multiply in the earth. So God is still creating. He's still in specifics, and everything has a purpose, and everything has an operation, and everything has a job. And it's funny. Everything knows what its purpose is but man. We're the only one that have no clue.
No idea.
So verse 24 says, and God said, let the earth, now we're on the earth. We're through with the air. We're through with the sea. Now we're on the earth. And next week is going to be the conclusion of the matter on the earth. This is the dry land. And God said, let the earth bring forth the living creature after its kind. Now, if you notice the word living creature is the same Hebrew word for soul, where it says, and man became a living soul. So the living creature and the word soul shares the same Hebrew. These individuals are animals that has life and probably some form of intellect. They're able to think for themselves and do some things so that they can continue to live. So let this earth bring forth the living creature of its kind. He names 3 categories: cattle, creeping things, and beasts. The creeping things are things I think later will be illegal for the Israelites to eat. One of the problems people have is when reading Genesis, they don't understand. Genesis is a book written apparently by Moses to the children of Israel.
Right.
So you're going to find some words that deals with Israel that we're not kind of finding, because he used the word seasons, which would be designated times. And he talks about new moons later. Well, this moon lets them know every time the sun goes up and down, it lets them know what season to have their feasts. These seasons, I don't think it's talking about winter, spring, summer, or fall. You know, all you have to do is call and I'll come running. I don't think it has something to do with that.
I'll be there.
Right. But even if it does, that's fine. But I think the seasons is talking about appointed times. Because another word for seasons is appointed time. Because God does not necessarily work in time. He works in seasons, which are appointed times. Then you look at the word years and day. That's where we come up with the calculated time. And that's how we know how to operate, what to do, when to do it. It's based on how many times that sun we see it and how many times we see the moon, and we continue to calculate it, and that's how we know. So he talks about these 3. The first is the cattle. Those are herded animals. It'll be the cattle, the bull, the lamb, the sheep, the goat, and all that kind of stuff. The creeping thing would be those things that are on the ground. The bull with 6 legs at least. The spider, the 1,000 leg. Although I don't know how we call him 1,000 leg. Look like he only got 15 legs. But that, and then the third one would be the beasts of the earth. And no, that's not man. But the beasts of the earth is what we call wild animals. That's what the beasts of the earth are. And then finally he says in verse 25, and God made the beasts of the earth. Notice it said God made. Now, I missed something. If you go back up to where the whale is, where did it say the whale? Verse 21, it says God created great whales. That word created is bara, B-A-R-A. That's the same word used when God created the earth. But it's not used often. And the word bara means to create something out of nothing. Now, it looks like they're saying, and I could be wrong based on the definition, that God created these great whales out of nothing, just like he created the earth out of nothing. Because normally when he creates out of something that he already made it out of. I just thought I would just throw that up in there and just let it ride. Then finally, he created, or he made. Once again, he made. And I want to ask you a question, because we always say that God didn't touch nothing. He only spoke it. But here it kept saying God made. He made the beasts of the earth after his kind, and cattle after his kind, and everything that creepeth upon the earth after his kind. And God saw that it was good.
Well, that was good too. Okay. I believe that God created the same way you said that you build that skyscraper downtown, yet you didn't lay not one brick. You built it. You bankrolled it.
Correct. Right.
Okay. There's some movies or some things on TV that says we think that it's Oprah. That's an Oprah's program. No, it's executive produced.
Exactly, by Oprah.
She didn't write not one scene.
Nothing.
All right. So, but she gets the credit.
She gets the credit.
Yeah. I got to get out of here. For those of you on OpenBroadcastMedia.com, not Elder. Well, he act like that. D. Curtis Randall. Get ready to spin the wax for y'all for some good new music is hot off of the presses. I suggest you hang around and listen. Sirwalterj Show. I can't even get the show out. You getting quicker and quicker.
Pretty soon, you're going to be like, Theology Thursday. Click.
Click. Man, I got a whole hour. One of the great things that I have, you know, when you study science and you look at your books in school, you're going to find God all up in there.
All up in there.
That, this thing called gravity. Newton, they call it Newton's gravity. All right, he's sitting up under a tree and the apple falls.
Right.
He realized, I need to study this. What makes the apple fall? Yeah, what makes this apple fall is gravity pulling this apple down. And well, many of the scientists are coming to discover that gravity is not as much pulling it, pushing it down as it is pulling it down. Right. It's actually pulling it down because cold water, or cold air and hot air do two different things.
One rises and one falls.
Right. So the cold is heavy on the ground.
Right.
Gravity is the same way. The ground holds more of a heavier mass of gravity. So when an item is falling from the sky, it's not being pushed because of gravity.
Right.
It's being pulled.
Right.
Because gravity is
and it has much or nothing to do about the weight.
No, absolutely. Because see, there it is. Yeah. And that's why I talked about how the moon is the gravitational pull of the moon is pulling everything in the earth. So we all supposed to be pushed and having waves just like the waters that we see. All of it's supposed to be pulled the same way. And if that is the case, then logistically they were wrong. Because if gravity is pulling at one item and we're in that item, we're all supposed to be being pulled and you're supposed to be able to see it. Right. But they proved it that's not true. It's just that what the gravity is doing is squeezing. So now we're affected a different way. We're not being pulled, we're being squeezed. So if we're being squeezed, because my mass is so small, you won't see me. But because the water body is so large, it has to do something. It has to move somewhere because it's such a mass, such a large mass. So what it does, the waves happen. Yeah. That is the effect of the gravity of the moon pulling it. And so this stuff right here,
some deep stuff.
It's deep and it's all in God's design. And again, like you said, I thought it was brilliant that all these men, every time they do something, they see God and they know it.
They know it.
That's what Romans says. They know it.
They know it.
And they reject it.
And so he had to reject them by giving them up, giving them over,
absolutely,
and getting them out.
And get them out. All right, y'all. I gotta get out of here. Gotta get the atmosphere. And, it's all about inertia on the expressways in Chicago. It gets on my inertia. Y'all hit the share button. If you're on YouTube, go bing, hit that bell and subscribe. Go to Elder Rodney Jones Sunday School. It might be up. I don't know. Late tonight it'll be up. It's Thursday night for those of you. Yeah, he's gonna do some editing, and there it is. All right, and you got all the resources you need to study and teach your Sunday school lesson for this coming Sunday. I appreciate it. Sirwalterj Show.